This is episode number 458 of the Health Fitness Podcast, brought to you by InnerFight in association with Smith Street Paleo. Remember, hop over to smithstreetpaleo.com, check out exactly what they're doing, and if you rate and review our podcast over in iTunes, you will get a bag full of treats from them. Remember just to let us know, winning@innerfight.com, that you've done that, and we will send out the treats. This week's podcast is with a super cool guy that actually used to live in Dubai and has competed at the very top of his sport. So I'm super excited that we managed to get Hayden on the line. We did this one via Skype, so hopefully the quality is what you guys expect and you can hear exactly all the goodness that Hayden is sharing with us. On another note, Inner Talks is coming up. It was postponed from today. It'll now take place on October the 11th here at InnerFight. That's definitely something, if you do live in Dubai, you want to come and see and listen to Omar Noor. He's got an incredible story, and for those of you that don't live in Dubai, we'll be sticking that on the podcast the following week that it happens, October the 11th here in Dubai. Enough talk now. Let's jump into today's show with Hayden Smith. Welcome back to another edition of the podcast, folks. And something that I continue to say is absolutely incredible with the way the world's going is how we can connect with people. Today's guest actually lived in Dubai, moved to Dubai in 2009 to work over here and spent 4 years here whilst I was actually still here, and we never even connected, and we're even closer probably now than we've ever been. We've never met in person, but I'm joined on the line from all the way from Australia, Hayden Smith. Hayden, thanks so much for taking the time to chat to us, mate.
Thank you, mate. I'm honoured to be on your show. Thanks for having me along. Looking forward to it.
Not at all, mate. Mate, listen, I want to go back to the start because it's important that we understand sort of where you've come from. So give us a bit of a background, where you come from, what sports you did growing up, and then let's kick on from there.
No worries, mate. So I actually started in surf life saving when I was young, about 8 years old. My dad's a life member of Surf Life Saving Australia, and he's in the Surf Life Saving Australia Hall of Fame. So I was destined to be swimming at the pool at 5 o'clock in the morning from an early age. So I basically spent 20 years in Surf Life Saving from age 8 through to about 28.
Right.
I basically swam at 5 a.m. 5 mornings a week for 20 years. Funnily enough, I still do it now. Most mornings I'm up doing something. So
wow.
Yeah, spent 20 years in life saving. I have won a world title. I've won 4 national championships. I've competed a few times in the Kellogg's Professional Ironman Series in Australia.
Unbelievable.
Was certainly never easy for me. I don't consider myself a gifted athlete. And what makes it sweeter for me is like the goals that I set for myself that I achieved. I just got there through hard work and persistence and grit and nothing else really.
Mate, just before we crack on, you explain to the guys, because the surf life saving concept in Australia, and when you say like the Ironman series, can you explain what it is so that the listeners actually understand what because you've just brushed over it. Yeah. You're a legend and you've just brushed over the whole thing.
Mate, so surf life saving in Australia is a national pastime. The typical surf Ironman race is 15 minutes long, consists of swimming, board paddling, and surf ski like kayak paddling, with a short run leg in between, in and out of the surf. And we race. The national or world championships are held over 15 minutes.
Right.
Through to the Coolangatta Gold, which is our longest race in surf life saving, which is about 4.5 hours. So I grew up doing that, and I've been in the surf club my whole life.
Yeah.
And it was a huge, if not the biggest part of my childhood and early adult life, without doubt.
Is that, I mean, you said obviously your dad's in the Hall of Fame. Was it just something that you did, mate? Like that was the environment that was created for you?
That's it, mate. I remember my childhood. I left school every day and went to the beach and trained. I got up every morning and went to the pool and swam. When Saturday rolled around, I went to the beach Saturday morning and came home Sunday night, mate. And that was me my whole life growing up, and it's just what we did in Australia where I grew up, and it was a very healthy lifestyle, and it's ingrained some habits in me that I reflect back on even in my business life now, that have made me a better person, I think, for sure.
What are those, mate? Just give us a few examples of the things that you learned.
I like to use the word grit.
Yep.
I think the success that I've achieved in sport has never come through being the most naturally talented person. There's lots more of them than me. The goals that I set for myself and reached, I got there through setting goals, training my backside off every day, getting to game time and falling short, getting back up the next season and trying again, falling short again, and then you start to have some success. And the success really only started coming to me when I was 18. And it took me until the next 10 years, until I was 28. My last national life-saving titles, I knew they were going to be my last because I'd actually accepted a job in Dubai in January. I basically committed the last 4 months of the season. I trained right through. I never tapered for any event because I actually had one last goal that I hadn't achieved. I wanted to make the final of the Open Ironman at our national championships.
Right.
And I'd missed the final by one place the previous 3 consecutive seasons.
Oh, no.
And I managed to get there in my last ever national title. So it was actually a really emotional way for me to sort of finish my surf life saving career at that point in time. And I ended up, I'd won 4 national championships, won a world title, and I'd raced the very best of the best guys in the Kellogg's Ironman series. So when I walked away from my last national titles in 2009, I knew, well, there's just no way I can get any more out of myself, and therefore I was just very, very content. It didn't mean that I was the best, but it just meant that I was the best that I could be, which was fitting enough for me.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, like, let's jump into that, mate. Like, you've done your best, and you were the best that you could be, and you've done incredibly well. Like, do you not think sometimes people don't identify what that is? And, like, you know, I can see that you're so strong at setting goals, but they'll always be like, oh, maybe I could have done better. But you sort of, you're happy in your own skin that was the best you were going to be, and you'd nailed it.
Without a doubt. I still use that lesson now. So I know last October when I raced the Hawaiian Ironman in Kona, people are asking me, oh, what place are you going to get? What time do you think you'll do? It's irrelevant. My whole process was, I'm going to spend 4 months. I'm going to train 30 hours a week on top of running my business and having a family. Wow. I'm going to never miss a session. I'm going to never cut a corner. I'm going to never stop short of any session at all for 4 months. I'm going to get there on the day, execute my race to perfection for my race plan, and absolutely bury myself in the meantime. And whatever I get, I deserve. And that's the whole way I approach everything now. It's not about the outcome. Take care of itself if you look after the things that come before it.
Yeah, that, mate, absolutely. I think that's a huge learning. We're 5 minutes in, and this show just has so much value. I'm so excited, mate. Let's mate, one thing about surf life saving, and something like you did it for 20 years, is that there's no money in it. It's really amateur, right? How does it work?
I remember my last season I raced the Kellogg's Ironman series. I finished 6th in the first 2 rounds, 2 consecutive days. And, you know, that's a good result because there's some outstanding athletes. So one of the guys, Kai Hurst, been to the last 2 Olympic Games for swimming.
Yeah.
Probably the best waterman I've ever met in my life. He sailed the last America's Cup. Finished 6th behind guys like that, and I think combined over the 2 days I earned $900. So it's hardly enough to set yourself up, and certainly not enough to do professionally. So for me, whilst I trained at 100% with throwing everything else in life in the mix, it was never going to be the be all and end all for me. So even at that age, at 28. I knew where I wanted to end up at professionally, and I had some steps I needed to go through to get there, but I always had my eye on the end goal, which was sports unlikely to provide a financial future for my family. So whilst I'm extremely passionate about it, and it's been a huge part of my life and still is today, it was never going to be something that I was going to bet my whole family's future on.
What was your career objective, mate, when you were 28?
My career objective when I was 28 was to be a McDonald's licensee.
Really?
Absolutely.
Why?
A few reasons. Number one, I believe in the brand. So I have a friend who's also into triathlon, who has been a good friend of mine. He was a licensee. I believed in the brand in Australia. I believed in what it does to support communities and young people. Personally, it gives me the ability to work for myself and for me to have ultimate flexibility with my life. So I never have to miss taking my son Duke to soccer every Tuesday morning or to swimming every Wednesday morning.
Right.
I can come home at lunch if I need to. I can train if I want to. And for me, it gives me a lot of pride to employ 250 people, and it's a responsibility I take very seriously.
Yeah.
There's some of the reasons I wanted to be a McDonald's licensee from a relatively young age, and 4 years before I actually was.
And for those people who are thinking that they're not hearing this properly, we've gone from world titles and being an incredible surf lifesaver to literally coming out of that sport at 28, wanting to run. Folks, you're thinking about it right. McDonald's, as in the fast food chain licensee. Hayden, this is why this show is going to be so awesome, mate. I'm so excited, as you can tell. We'll skip that a little bit. At 28, you took a job in Dubai, mate, with the ICC.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that. For those that are in Dubai, it's obviously a little bit closer to home.
Yeah, so I did a business degree, and then I did a diploma in workplace education and training. My wife actually said to me one day, she said, knowing that we wanted to get into McDonald's and the equity required to get in, my wife actually said to me, do you want to think about moving to Dubai? And I said, yeah, why not? And so I started researching. There's a job running the training and education department for the ICC came up. I applied for it and got it. And I thought, okay, wow, there you go. Now we are going. And it actually happened very quickly. And I got over there and I really enjoyed it. And I had probably come over there content just to work and maybe keep fit. The surf ski scene in Dubai when I got there was huge. One of the big World Cups was in Dubai, the Dubai Shamal race. Right. There's a lot of surf ski paddlers and Aussies that I knew from Australia. So I got a ski and just started paddling. And then before I knew it, I was coaching the squad, competing in World Cup events in South Africa and Hong Kong and Mauritius and Dubai and all around the world, right into it. One of the guys that I actually trained was the GM for Wild Wadi, for the Jumeirah Group.
Okay.
And he actually, after only 12 months, recruited me across to come and work with him at Wild Wadi.
Right.
And I did that as the ops manager there for 3 years. And by that stage, the McDonald's momentum really started picking up for me.
Yeah.
It's funny, I actually got offered the role as the director for the water park in the Bahamas for the Atlantis Resort.
Wow.
And it literally happened. So I went, interviewed, got the job. We were going there still with our eye on McDonald's, but thinking this was the next step.
Yeah.
Literally the same week my visas came through, we got accepted with McDonald's Australia after an application process of sort of 12 steps, the application process with McDonald's, and
wow,
a number of interviews, psych tests. I'd never worked at McDonald's before, but they put you in a restaurant for 3 days and see how you go. Bunch of different things, and literally on the same week it came through. So I apologised to the Bahamas, and my wife India and I moved home to Australia, and that's where we started.
Wow, incredible, mate. I mean, when you've also, as I want to jump into a little bit, you've obviously found some serious talent in yourself in triathlon as well. When did you start triathlon? Was that when you moved to Dubai, or had you already sort of...
No, so, mate, when I moved home...
Right.
2013, I moved home. We got accepted with McDonald's. So basically I had 12 months full-time unpaid work with McDonald's I needed to do before I could buy my own store.
Right.
I started that in Brisbane, and at the same time, a bunch of my mates were doing triathlon, so I just bought a bike and started riding. I entered an Olympic distance try, and I did well. And I thought, I'll do a half Ironman 70.3 race. It was the National Age Group Championships in Port Macquarie in Australia. I ended up getting second.
Wow.
And I just look back and I go, man, I remember my wife and I, when I was early 20s, I wrote a bucket list at home. I remember I stuck it on the wall of all the sporting events I wanted to do. The number one sporting event on there was an Ironman triathlon.
Oh, no way.
Now, I finished my McDonald's training. I bought McDonald's Foster, which is just north of Sydney in New South Wales. Now, Foster was actually the home of Ironman Australia.
Wow.
So I moved there, and there's this huge triathlon scene. I got there in late December. And April was Ironman Australia in Port Macquarie, just up the road from Foster. And I thought, bugger it, I'm going to enter. And so I entered my first Ironman. And I thought, okay, I got 4 months to train. I didn't get a coach. I just coached myself because I knew how my body worked, and I knew what I needed to do to get in the best shape. So I basically just did as much as I could. And lined up for my first Ironman in Port Macquarie in 2014.
And prior to this, mate, you'd done an Olympic distance. Had you done a half Ironman by now?
I'd done one.
Right.
So I did one was a national championships, and I got second. And then literally my third or fourth ever triathlon was Ironman Australia. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. I I swam 46 minutes.
Wow.
And I was first age grouper out of the water. I swam up to the lead pro female, which was Melissa Hauscheit, who's a 70.3 pro world champion previously.
All right.
I rode with her for 120k. I actually got a drafting penalty. I got caught drafting off a girl. Would you believe it?
That was definitely one for the CV, mate. Right?
yeah, right. So I and at the same time as I got a penalty, I got a flat tire.
Oh no!
And so, being a rookie, I pull over into the penalty tent, going, "Okay, no, you did 4 minutes. I'm still going pretty well." So proceeded to start changing my tire, and they said, "No, you can't change it until you've served your penalty." Now, for those that know bike riding, I had tubulars on with no tubes in the tyres. Had I ever changed one of them before? No. So next thing I know, 20 minutes later on the side of the road, I've got a new tyre on and I'm off and away. I had a really good run that day. I blew up with about 5 kilometres to go, but I finished well, and I ended up getting a Kona slot on my first ever Ironman.
It's
so
incredible.
I've gone from thinking I'll only ever do one to going, I go to the roll down ceremony, I'll get a slot for, the pinnacle one-day sporting event in the world, in my opinion, or one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just not something you can say no to.
So that's it. You're all eyes on Hawaii.
And then so 2014 Kona. We went over there. My wife was 6 months pregnant. It was such an epic experience, and I left there. I was still a total rookie. That was like my 4th or 5th ever triathlon, the Hawaiian Ironman. And I had a good day. I ran well, suffered heaps, which was exactly what I wanted to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've got to come back here again.
Mate, you say you ran well. Your first time in Hawaii, you finished the race in 9 hours 42 minutes. That's absolutely incredible time, mate. You're sort of skipping over a lot of the. I know but this is, folks. This is just unbelievable what Hayden's talking about here. Go and check out if you want to put some of his times in perspective. The first one that he mentioned there was 46 minutes for the swim. So just go and check the average time for people to do the swim. And to put another little bit of context here, we skipped over this, mate. Triathlon starts in waves. So the pros go off, the female pros will go off, and then they set them off in age groups. So Hayden could have been about 5 to 10 minutes back from the groups that he's catching up. So he's just swimming through and catching up to some of the lead professional females. So just to
and then I think that, and it goes from there, and then I get on to my bike, which I've ridden the bike at that point so at my first Kona, I've ridden the bike for an entire 12 months total.
Wow.
When you're competing against guys that have ridden for 20 years, so it's a bit of a deficit I've had to work really hard to overcome.
Let's talk a little bit about that, mate, because obviously the triathlon, 3 sports in one, it's an incredibly tough sport. You're obviously pretty strong and pretty confident in swimming. How did you said you didn't get a coach. How did you sort of build up and figure out like how to get fitter and stronger on a bike and then run off the bike?
I've definitely learned a lot since my first year, but my first year was really about I'm an absolute rookie. In general terms, the more I can do, the better I will be. And I knew how to structure a training program around long ride with a run off, like an interval run. So I've done a lot of 1K repeats. So for that first Kona, I had a 500 metre track on the side of the road up and down, and I got up to doing 40 times 1Kers before Kona. And I always make sure I do that by myself, no music and no food. Yeah. So I go, I'll have drinks and gels, obviously, but I think if I can go 40 times 1K repeats up and down a 500-metre road by myself on a Thursday afternoon, I'm in a good mental headspace for Kona.
Yeah. Is it, mate?
So I knew how to build a training program.
Jump into that a little bit. Like, that's one thing that, it's physiological, but that's a lot of mental training as well, right?
It's all about mental at the end of the day. I mean, I look at Ironman and go, your heart rate's never at 200, or it shouldn't be.
Right.
So much, and if you've done the work, so much of it is mental, right? Yeah. So your body's saying, your mind is saying, I'm too tired, I can't go anymore, I want to give up, let me just walk the next aid station. Yeah. I just think if the stronger I can be to laugh at my mind when it's saying that and keep going, just the better I'm going to be.
What else did you do to build that mental strength, mate?
I remember I had to run I wanted to run a marathon in training before Kona, and the day I needed to do it, it was bucketing down. So I just got on a treadmill and ran a marathon.
As you do.
And another day I wanted to ride 200k. The next week after that, it was bucketing down again. So then I went outside and rode 200k by myself in the pouring rain.
I thought you were going to say you did it on the turbo.
I've done a lot of good stuff on the turbo, but not a 200k. But I think my approach has just been and it works for life, right? Anytime you're unsure about something, or you're nervous about something, or you're scared of something, just all the more reason you should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a very valid point. Was there times in the early days of your training, because I think this is hopefully this will answer to a lot of people, that you were just, you knew how to structure a program, but you're almost just going with your gut, winging it a little bit, mate. And did you sort of ever start to think, shit, am I doing this correctly? What was going through your mind?
Funny, yes. I did 2014. We had our son in 2015, so I didn't do any. I did some sprint, Olympic distance and sprint races that year.
Yeah.
The next year, 2016, the Half Ironman World Championships were on the Queensland Sunshine Coast, which was my original hometown.
Yeah.
They're pretty hard to qualify for when they're in your home country, but I qualified, and again, coaching myself, probably didn't listen to my body enough, and I got a pretty serious stress fracture in my pubic bone from running, and didn't get to compete. So that was the lesson for me. Basically, as soon as that happened, I called a coach from Melbourne who I knew and who himself is a very good competitor, and basically asked him to coach me the next year, because I said I want to go. I wasn't able to run at all for I think 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
And I totally lost confidence in my ability to run without getting injured. And I wanted someone to help me get back on top of it. So I signed up with him in September 2016.
Right.
I ran for 5 weeks, and I went and did a half Ironman in China, which actually had Kona qualifying spots on it, which is weird for a half Ironman.
Yeah.
And after 5 weeks of running, I got second and qualified for Kona for 2017. Right. I then I'm not happy. I'm not comfortable qualifying for Kona off a half. So I then went home, signed up for Ironman Australia again, and then did a really, really good 3 months block and ended up running I did 9:23 on probably Australia's hardest Ironman course, which is, if you go to a fast course would be, like Bustleton would be maybe 30 minutes faster, so probably an 8:50 something.
Wow.
And I ran a 3:15 marathon really comfortably the whole way, felt really strong the whole way.
Wow.
And I, again, got a slot for Hawaii out of that as well. So then sort of started another build for Kona last year, which was, I'll still say, was the best I've ever prepared for a sporting event in my whole life.
What did you do differently, mate?
Listen to my coach. got my body to the place where it could handle serious volume.
Yeah.
So basically what I did, I organised my work, or McDonalds at that point, to have resources in place so I didn't feel I needed to be there 50 hours a week. I could step back from work a little bit for 4 months.
Right.
I basically trained probably 30, 35 hours a week I averaged for 4 months.
Wow.
And I could do that so my family life wouldn't suffer as well.
Yeah.
So I got to the point where I was riding 500k a week and running 100k a week. And I don't need to do much swimming, so I was swimming maybe 10 or 15k a week only.
Right.
But I was doing some serious volume, probably close to pro level volume.
Yeah,
on
that's
bike and run, which I
that's a
needed
lot
to
of
be
hours.
competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just got to the point, I was really proud. I got to the point where I could handle that run volume. I was being really diligent. I was actually doing a lot of strength work every week, and I was getting physio every week. So just trying to be really diligent and never got any niggles, for the whole build up for Kona. I think I was really firing come August, and I got the flu. And the only thing I did wrong was I stubbornly thought, nah, I'll keep training. I ended up getting full-blown pneumonia and having 7 nights in hospital with the first 5 nights on a drip. So I actually got really sick.
Ideal, yeah.
My doctor does triathlon as well, and he had a friend racing Kona as well, so it's lucky. He said, I can give you antibiotics and it'll take you a month, or you can go to hospital and in 5 to 7 nights you'll be home and you'll be fine. So I did that. I was pretty skinny anyway. I got out of hospital after a week of eating hospital food and going, I was really skinny. I was 6'3" and 76 kilos when I got out of hospital, so a bit too on the skinny side.
Yeah.
And that was about 8 or 9 weeks before Kona. It only took me about a week to get back up to speed, so I recovered from it really well, and I was really, really happy with my last 8 weeks of training. But you never know if that takes a couple of % off you still on race day, but who knows? But again, the same thing I said earlier, the result didn't matter because the build-up was everything I could do. So, and the race day, I couldn't. I remember texting you after the race. We were texting each other. I remember it. I couldn't have got any more out of myself that day. I literally got carried from the finish line to recovery.
Yeah.
And they sat me on a chair and they said, "We'll get your medal for you." I said, "No way. I'm walking over to get my medal and get that photo myself."
Mate, I mean, you did another incredible time, mate. 9:35 last year in Kona is, again, that's an incredible time, really, isn't it?
It was good. I mean, I was first overall age group, so it's a mass start for all the age groupers, and I was the first age grouper overall out of the water. And I won the fastest swim award, which was really cool.
Yeah,
and I remember getting on the Queen K, the start of the bike, going, yeah, I'm going to have a crack at this. I'm going to have a real red hot go. And I rode 285 watts for the first 45 minutes. and I thought, if I continue with this, I'm not going to finish.
Really?
So I pretty sensibly got my race plan back together, and I had a good day. And like I've said, it's the hardest marathon I've ever run in that heat.
Yeah.
It's just so hot and so hard. But I look back at it now and go, I can't think of another time in my life where I could think to myself that, this is really living.
Yeah.
This is what it's really about for me.
In what stage, mate? And let's elaborate on that a little bit, because I've never raced in Kona, and a lot of people haven't. But what you've just said about the marathon part of Kona is, I've heard it a number of times before. It's hot, it's brutal, it's what is it that makes it?
I think so there's a few things. The heat and the humidity. So nothing new for you in Dubai, obviously, but it's 38 degrees and very humid.
Right.
It's a deceptively very, very hilly course. So it's 1,800 metres in elevation on the bike. I'm not sure what the run is, but it follows a lot of the bike course. So with 13K to go, you've got a 3K uphill to get out of the energy lab, and then you've got a 1K or an 800 metre climb up the Mark and Dave Hill about a mile from the end.
Right.
I think the biggest thing, mate, is it's the World Championships. So everyone there is really willing to have a look over the edge of the cliff and maybe jump off here and there as well.
Yeah.
Where, certainly at other Ironmans. So at Ironman Australia, I was pretty comfortable in control.
Yeah.
Never really got to a deep and dark place.
Uh-huh.
But you most definitely, I remember going 12K to go on the run at Hawaii. I was absolutely gone,
Really?
Totally gone. And I just said, don't run anything over a 5-minute K, and don't dare walk. And I just refused to let myself walk. And it's the longest 50 minutes of my life. Seriously.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so sweet, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think, exactly, mate. I think it's, it's those times where, like you say, in Australia, if you're a bit comfortable, you look back at it now and it's like, oh, I got through that. But, for that 9:35 in Kona, you've had to fight literally for the last hour, but I can imagine you started to fight a lot longer than an hour before the end.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's a tough, it's certainly, there's lots of epic sporting events out there.
Yeah.
But that's the toughest day in sport that I've done. And to be honest, it's what I love about the day itself. And for me, it's actually a really, really emotional day for me, because I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Yeah. And mate, your wife and your family give up so much for me to be able to be there doing what I love on the day. And I actually saw my son 100 metres from the end.
Wow. In
my wife's arm with a sign that said "Go, Dad."
Incredible.
I reckon I cried for 5 minutes when I saw them at the end.
Yeah.
It was really, really emotional.
Yeah, I can imagine it is, man. And I think that's one thing that you don't see. Like, you hear it talked about, but the amount of support that your wife has given you, like that Holly gives me as well, that you can go out and you can train 30 to 35 hours a week, just so you can put yourself completely in the rinser is something that we'll probably never understand,
I sometimes I remember sitting on the grass after it, and the left side of my mind was going, why the hell do we do this?
Yeah.
And the right side of my mind's going, because this is living life.
Yeah.
This is when it's at that moment when your stress about work or debt or responsibility goes out the window and you're only focused on one thing.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant feeling to have here and there.
Absolutely, mate. Mate, let's jump back a little bit to the work. A lot of people are just going to be listening and going, this guy's a legend triathlete and he's working for McDonald's, which unfortunately has quite a bad rap globally for making people fat. How do you mix these two, mate? I can't be the only bloke that's thinking, Hayden, How do you put these two together? So tell us how you put it together, mate.
I'll touch on a couple of different aspects, Marcus, for you. Would you believe if I said I've eaten McDonald's 6 days a week for 5 years?
Oh, my God.
I have.
Really?
Yep, without a word of a lie.
That's
6 days a week for 5 years.
What's your favourite?
I do. So I eat Big Macs. I don't eat heaps of fries, but occasionally I do. Yeah. I like wraps. I like the salads from McDonald's. I love the coffee from McDonald's now. But I'm a Big Mac guy through and through.
Really? And you eat it 6 days a week? You didn't tell me that before this show, mate. This is brilliant.
You wouldn't have me on.
This is amazing. Keep going.
So it's not a word of a lie, and I just say it's debits and credits. But for me, there's a number of things that I love about McDonald's. So as a brand, or as an owner of, I have 2 stores now. I employ 250 people.
Unbelievable.
I have a team of 18 managers. Wow. And I have a young girl who is my general manager for my wife, India, and I. Now, when I bought my first store in Foster, she was the crew chief, which is the crew people are the Big Mac makers.
Right.
And she was the head of the crew people, so she wasn't a manager. And she was about 20 years old then.
Yeah.
And I've mentored, trained, guided, moulded her, and she's 25 now, and she's my general manager. Gets paid in the top 1% of earners where I live, without a doubt.
Wow.
Has a lot of responsibility, has a lot of great opportunities as well. Yeah. And we will, I think, long term, we'd like to sell her an equity share in our business.
Wow.
And I take pride in. She's just one example of many, but for her, I can give her opportunities in life that she would never have working a normal job.
For sure, yeah.
Now, I take that people responsibility very seriously. So McDonald's is the second biggest employer in our country, in Australia.
Right.
It's the biggest employer of youth, and it keeps me young. A lot of these, we have such a great mix of kids that come from well-to-do families, and then kids that need to work 4 closes a night after school to support their family.
Incredible.
So it's much more than Big Macs and cheeseburgers to me. It's a family business. It's a brand. I sponsor every local sporting club and event in the community.
Wow.
Literally every sporting club, every netball club, cricket club, football, soccer, surf life saving clubs we sponsor.
Wow.
Very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And on the other aspect, if you're a competitive person, the McDonald's business is tailor-made for someone like me, because in Australia the stores are measured, timed, and ranked in real time against every other store in the country. So we literally get a daily dashboard of our results.
No way.
And our drive-through, we are measured on what percentage of cars get through our drive-through in under 3 minutes. And my store is ranked number 1 in Australia. My big store at Wyong on the Central Coast is the fastest drive-through in the country.
Wow.
And to some degree, it's about shift management and process and doing the same repetitive motions for people over and over and over again very fast. And the food is the outcome of those motions that we put in place.
That's incredible.
So, one of my stores, McDonald's Australia sells more coffee than it does fries.
That's a good stat.
Yeah, more coffee than it does fries. So we have gone to the days of the Starbucks press button crap coffee machines.
Yeah.
McDonald's in Australia is full group handle barista made ground bean coffee.
Wow.
So I have every single morning, I have 7 people in one of my stores that stand there. Sorry, they don't sit. They don't have time. They do nothing but make coffee. They don't serve customers. They don't do anything. They are standing in front of 3 machines, grinding beans, making coffee non-stop. So we do 160 cars an hour through our drive-through, and we'll make 250 coffees an hour.
I can see what you mean by process-driven. That's incredible.
Absolutely. And so that's what it's about for me. It's about getting up and, a fellow licensee who has actually pretty poor results said to me, how often do you look at your EOPS? And that's the dashboard of results that I tell you about.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't ever look at mine. I just think, you loser.
Yeah.
I said to him, honestly, I can't remember the last time it wasn't physically the first thing I did every morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just what it's about, process-driven, people, and as many cars through my drive-through as I can, giving great service and representing the brand in my community, supporting the community. And it's a family business for me. So I have a sign at my store says, this McDonald's is proudly owned and operated by the Smith family, right. Hayden, India, Duke and Hennessy, which Duke and Hennessy are my son and daughter. So it's a family business, and people know who my kids are, they know who my wife is, and I'm just really passionate about it. So as you can see, mate, it's much more
absolutely
about the cheeseburgers. But what I would say is McDonald's in Australia, very different to a lot of places, is 100% beef. Right. 100% chicken with nothing added. The eggs we get in cartons and we crack them and cook them on the grill like you do at home.
Right.
The tomatoes and cucumbers we've got to slice them every morning.
Right.
And we don't make a single burger until it's ordered. Everything is made fresh in Australia.
Wow.
And we slice tomatoes, and they can't be out for more than 2 hours before until we need to waste and slice more. So. Wow. It's not only is it very process driven, but the McDonald's business in Australia is very different to a lot of places in the world, and the average volume of a McDonald's store in Australia is about, I think, 3 to 4 times what it is in the US. So
wow,
we're a big business here.
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting, mate, to hear about the difference, and obviously sort of your motivation as well. But I still somehow can't get past the fact that such a successful athlete makes a living through selling fast food. And I can see from what you've said, I'm sure the listeners sort of now understand it. And mate, to be giving that 20-year-old that opportunity and to take her to a general manager at 25 and to be doing so much that you're doing within sport in the local community is just incredible, mate. Like that's very inspiring. But I'm still like, that thick shake. And what was what's the thing? Super size me when the guy ate McDonald's every day.
Yes, yeah.
But that's mate.
So he's like me, except he doesn't train.
Yeah, exactly. So is that is that your that's your go-to nutrition then? Just you fuel your triathlon training on McDonald's? Is that what you're telling me?
What a typical day for me looks like. So I definitely eat what I would call a healthy breakfast. I don't know if you're going to feel different, but I'm a muesli and a fruit guy in the morning. Espresso coffee. At night is fresh fish, fresh steak, salad, vegetables.
Right.
Coupled with a Big Mac meal at lunch. So whilst I'm working during the day, I'm, every day of the week I'm just eating in the store when I'm there, and I've never put on a kilo from it. I'm probably fitter now than I ever have been in my life.
Yeah.
So I mean, it seems to be working whether you think it's right or wrong. I think. Yeah. I had my first store in Foster from a business perspective. I had my first store in Foster, New South Wales. I bought it on the low, really built that up. I built it up to being the most profitable store in the state.
Wow.
And I sold it, and I've moved with my family to the Central Coast, which is about an hour out of Sydney, or 40 minutes out of Sydney. And we've partnered with one of the country's biggest operators to be their exit strategy. So we've bought 2 stores from them. We're buying our 3rd next year, and it'll probably end up being a patch of 8 to 10 stores.
Wow.
over the next 10 years that will take over. So that's the plan from a business perspective. And I guess the last bit for me about why McDonald's is I can earn returns that can, if I work hard, that as along with supporting the community and the employees the people I employ, it can set my family and my kids up. And whilst my wife is very active in our business, she looks after all of our legislative requirements. She'll never have to go and work a 9-to-5 job.
Amazing.
And that's a huge motivation for me.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I can see it. So obvious, mate, your priorities on family and everything. It is awesome, mate. It's really cool. Mate, just a couple more questions before we wrap it up. What do you're an athlete, you're a businessman. What do you do to relax?
Run and swim.
Love it.
Yeah. So and my wife knows me back to front. If I come home and I'm stressed, I'm going to go for a run or a swim. A half an hour run. I'm too competitive. I'd probably still put my Garmin on and put it on Strava.
Yeah.
And Training Peaks.
Yeah.
But just even a half an hour easy run is just a total de-stressor for me. And
awesome.
And honestly, sometimes it's part of the reason why I train is just to keep fit and active and healthy for life. And I've had to work really hard on work-life balance, and I'm not immune from at times feeling pressure and anxiety in my life. I've gone through some periods of that, and it's all around if my balance is out and I feel like I'm short of time, I don't have enough time to look after myself and I'm too stressed, that's when I sort of start to get out of whack. And exercise, mate, is the thing that always brings it back into line with me. Always has, always will be.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And mate, you're currently at the time of recording this, this will go out in a few weeks, but you're on the Gold Coast. You're still racing. What's up next? What are the sort of triathlon goals for the immediate future and over the next year or so?
All right, so on the Gold Coast this weekend for the Olympic Distance World Championships. So race that on Sunday morning, hoping to have a good race. Funnily enough, following this for the first time in 10 years, I'm actually going to go back and do some surf Ironman races over summer. So I'm racing the World Masters Championships in November.
Wow.
So I'm basically going to spend the summer back training in the surf.
Wow.
And I'll obviously keep running and riding a bit on the side. Just because our daughter is one, I did 2 Ironmans last year. I'm not going to do any for the next 12 months.
Nice.
But I'm going to compete in the surf, which are much shorter races.
Yeah.
Therefore, not requiring the 6-8 hour training days that an Ironman triathlon does. So again, just finding balance with work and family and life in general, where I can keep competitive and keep the competitive juices going, but not sort of get my family balance out of whack too much.
Mate, it seems like you have a pretty good balance going on. And mate, I just want to take a moment to really appreciate what you've done for the show, mate. I think your story is, in the last 45 minutes, it's honestly, mate, you've had me literally on the edge of my seat. It's been absolutely epic. And I think one of the things that I picked up right from the start, it's pretty much all about how much you want it, how competitive you're going to be. And I think that's amazing, mate. It shows in your triathlon and it shows in your business. It also shows in your family life, mate. I mean, you just want to be the best father. So, mate, thank you so much for that. One last question that I want, and I know we've been over a lot of different things, mate, but if there's one piece of advice that you've learned along the way that you could leave the listeners with, what would it be?
You will get to where you need to go. You'll get to where you want to go if you never give up. No matter what you're doing, if you fall short, pick yourself up, have some grit, have some determination, and go again. If you fall short again, keep going, and you will, no matter what it is you want to achieve, you can get there.
Mate, what a way to finish. Hayden, you are, mate, an absolute legend. I know it's late there. It's almost 10 o'clock. You should be sleeping. You've got a race in 2 days, mate.
All good, mate.
I really, really appreciate you taking the time, mate. This has been one of the most awesome podcasts I've done in a long time. So thank you so much for the inspiration, mate. That's been perfect.
I really appreciate you having me on. I must say you're a huge inspiration to me. I follow you on Instagram. I love it. I look at it every single day.
Thank you,
mate, you're smashing life in everything you do. And like I said, you are an inspiration for me every day with how you attack life and go after things, mate. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, mate. All the best for the race this weekend, and we'll keep in touch, and hopefully we'll get you back on in a year where you've got a few more stores under your belt and more plans to dominate. You'll actually be, mate, I know why you're relaxing. You're almost at the top of your age group now. You're coming back on the 40 plus age group.
I'm not too far away from it, mate, but I'm a couple of years away.
The old that's the old triathlete thing, isn't it? Sort of wishing
Absolutely.
to be older.
Yeah.
So you're not done on that front yet. We'll see you race in Kona again, mate, I'm sure.
Oh, I will definitely be back at Kona again, without a doubt.
I love it. Hayden, thank you so much, mate. Have an awesome race this weekend.
Thanks, Marcus.
Cheers,
mate.
Cheers, mate.